Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son get together and talk about fantasy, science fiction, and whatever other nerdy stuff we want to talk about. Today, you're here for one of our tiny talks, a quick take episode that actually Zach is going to talk about something. I know
That's
we haven't
me.
seen him for as many of these short ones, but you got him today. Yay! So, we are here specifically to talk about The Haunting of Hill House, the
Yes.
Netflix show. And I have no familiarity with this show beyond I'd heard of it. I knew it was a thing. What's it about? I mean, why might I like it?
Um,
And hold on, reminders for our listeners. Spoilers can abound on quick takes. So if you haven't watched the show, maybe you don't want to be here, but he won't spoil too much because I hate when that happens. Okay,
yeah, no, I'm
Zach.
not going to say much of anything spoilery because I know you hate spoilers. This is a horror, suspense, thriller thing that is honestly fantastic, especially because through a lot of it, it doesn't feel like your typical horror. It is there, but it's really a family drama that takes place in a horror setting
Oh, the
and
horror.
undertones throughout it. It is the story of a family that moved into a house that had a lot more funky going on than they expected, and the way it impacted their lives for the next 20, 30, 40 years plus. It has amazing casting, great acting, some of the best cinematography I've seen in a show, especially a Netflix show. Netflix can be good, Netflix can be bad. This was great. It took me a little while to get to it. This thing has been out for a while now, a number of years, just because I was always watching other things. But when I finally got to watching this, I always wanted to watch more. I think you should watch it, Dad. I think you would have a really good time with it.
Okay, that's good to hear because that's certainly one of the things I want to know. Now, why might I like it? I mean, what is it about it that you think would be my jam?
It has very real connections and touches on some very like personal things that are really easy to connect to,
Okay.
while doing it in a respectful manner and a very clever manner. And so it can be a heavy emotional show, but also it's just kind of beautiful to watch happen, to see these pieces unfold. And is everything a surprise? No. Are there surprises? Absolutely. But when you aren't surprised, you still are really, really satisfied with how it is shown.
Okay. Now you said this has been out for a little while, so like, are there
Yeah.
multiple seasons available
It's a
already?
one season thing. It is what it
Ah,
is. It is what it is. A self contained story. There is a like spiritual successor sequel type series that I've heard of. I've also heard it's not as good. And I've also heard it's mostly not as good if you go into it thinking it's going to be this, because it's just something entirely different that a lot of people were like, we're getting more Hill House. And that's not what they did.
okay. Uh, Anything in particular you want to geek out about related to the show that you haven't said, or more deeper and respectable comments about the show? I mean, whatever. Anything?
Yeah, on a personal film bias note, I'm not a huge film guy, but I do know film people. I know people who work in film at this point in my life, and this thing does some very, very, very impressive things, including one episode that I have to admit has to be only like 5 cuts than the entire hour long episode. And so it feels very much like a well rehearsed
Ah,
stage production
okay.
while being TV quality.
What's some other content that people might have watched and liked that if they liked that, they'll like this? Does anything come to
Um,
mind?
I think a lot of the famous horror movies, but not slashers, when you think of more of a Shyamalan or Stephen King adaptation, those horror things that are more psychological and mess with you in here than they do give you jump scares.
Okay. Well, I like those kinds of things, so it sounds like you're onto something. All right, there you got it, people. The Haunting of Hill House.
Hill House.
I almost said Hell House. I think that's a different movie.
I mean,
And we think you might like it. Well, Zach thinks you might like it. I think you might like it because of what Zach just told me. So check it out. Speaking of liking it, if you liked this episode, be sure to like it down below, and we hope you subscribe to our channel. That's all we've got for you right now, so we'll talk to you next time.